The newest Phoenix Sun, Kevin Durant, went unplugged with Shams of The Athletic, saying, "People are not going to think in a logical way or simply look at me at what I've done and say that's it. People are going to use mental gymnastics since I left the Warriors to discredit me every step of the way." Is Kevin Durant unfairly criticized? And the other question the reality is, I think Kevin Durant's the Aaron Rodgers of the NBA. He is the closest thing to Michael Jordan. He watches MJ. And fans have spent decades looking for MJ. They got it in Kobe. Since Kobe, KD's been the modern version of that. 5 inches taller, a better three-point shooter, and still one of the best defenders in the game. So I want to head to you guys. Which one of you want to start off first? Is Kevin Durant unfairly criticized? And does his legacy not get enough appreciation now while he's currently playing?
I'll say one thing. Where I feel like KD is crapped on, and I feel like it's done wrongfully, is he was the best player on those Warriors teams. If you go back and watch those NBA finals, for instance, the one that they lost against the Raptors, they win that with KD on the floor because when KD was on the floor, Toronto wasn't stopping them. And then prior to that, Kevin Durant was playing the best basketball that we've seen him play probably in his career, playing with the Warriors because he didn't have to be that main guy, and even he didn't have to be the main guy, but realistically he was. He Every time he had the ball, you knew he was going to score. He was unstoppable when he was in Golden State. So I don't judge him too much for that because I feel like those titles in Golden State, he was the best player on the floor. He was the best player on that team. And the only thing that you can give him crap for really is just going to Golden State. But after that, I don't understand why people criticize him just so much. I mean, yeah, he's a top 5 player on the planet, and we want to see him win a title on his own. Sure, that's the only critique. You want to see him at least advance. He didn't get there with Brooklyn. See him do it without a super team. So I guess if that's what you want to argue, then that's fine. But if you're going to throw in the Golden State years, I think we're past that. We're how many years removed from that now? We're a failed stint in Brooklyn. From that, now we're in Phoenix. So get over it, Brandon.
Okay. Ding dong. Hello. First off, in terms of that Toronto point, yeah, the reason that they were without KD, they were losing is because they gutted their team to get KD. If that Warriors team that had the 73-9 record facing that team, they probably would have been a lot better competition for that Toronto. I have a lot of respect for Kawhi Leonard, so I probably would have favored Kawhi, but that's just me. One man's opinion doesn't mean everything. In terms of the KD move, listen, he has not been unfairly criticized. He has been rightly criticized. Okay. The guy says now that he doesn't care about his legacy today. I disagree with that. So we go back to why he left OKC. Why did he leave OKC, guys? One word, legacy, right?
I got a second. That's 2 words. Russell Westbrook.
Which was tied to needing to win a championship. I can't win one without Russell Westbrook, therefore legacy. Why did he go to Golden State? Legacy. Why did he leave Golden State? Legacy. Why did he join up with Kyrie Irving in Brooklyn? Legacy. Why did he want out of Brooklyn? Legacy. Do you see how that adds up? Now he says he doesn't care now. Actions speak louder than words, my guy. Just not even a year ago in the summer, you were demanding a trade. Why? Legacy. You realized, you started to foreshadow, oh, this Brooklyn Nets team is not going to be good enough to win a championship. I need to go. Where were his 2 options, guys? You remember that? Miami and Phoenix. Weird. Miami was just in a game 7, 1 shot away from being in the finals. Phoenix had just been to the finals 2 years prior, or a year prior at that point. So again, and then it comes to the point of why go to Phoenix? Because if it's not about legacy, KD, which is what you're saying, you're lying. Because if it wasn't about legacy, why not go home? Why not go to Washington? Why not go to Charlotte? Why not go to Houston? Why not stay in Brooklyn? If it's not about legacy, if it's just truly about balling. I just want to go out there and play basketball. Why are you going to a team that now has probably the best odds to win the finals? Because if he goes to Washington, does Washington now have the best odds to win the finals? Probably not. Maybe a lot of people are like, whoa, now they're looking at Washington like, well, Bradley Beal, Kristaps Porzingis, Kyle Kuzma, if they keep everybody, right?
Back in 2016, they would have been an Eastern Conference favorite.
That's what I'm saying. And I wanted that back then. I was like, go to Washington. It looks perfect. You got John Wall, Bradley Beal, and KD. That's a great 3-man trio. So again, listen, I've toned my it's not hatred, just I don't hate anybody, just more of a not much of a fan of KD. I've toned that down after the Golden State years because I feel like I've been more proven right in my point of, and I disagree with you, Justin. To me, Steph Curry was the best man on that team. He was the face of that franchise. He was the best player on that team. We can disagree.
I'll give you face of the franchise, but I really think he was the best player on the floor. I don't. There's very few people Kevin Durant steps on the floor with, and people are better than him.
Yeah, I fundamentally disagree because he had a chance. He was up 3-1, if we forget, in a Western Conference final against those Golden State Warriors. And what happened? He blew his 3-1 lead. And he was the best player on that team, was he not? And Steph Curry was the best player on the Golden State Warriors.
But great teams.
Everybody's
but Steph Curry lost 73-9. They lost the NBA.
100% they did, but it seems everybody wipes 3-1 that goal that OKC.
Nobody, I don't think nobody forgets that.
A lot of people they don't bring that
up. That's
up.
why Kevin Durant gets crapped on for going to Golden State in the first place because he got knocked out by that team.
Yeah, I know, but a lot of people sweep that under the rug. They sweep under the rug.
You know why they sweep that underneath the rug? It's because Sam Presti failed to build around Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. I said before, towards Russell Westbrook, part of it was they had no shooting around those two guys. So all of the expectations were put on KD's plate offensively, while Russ is shooting 40% in every single playoff series. Yeah. And defensively, they had some support, but there wasn't a reliable secondary shot maker. So he goes to Golden State, and at the time, the prevailing thought was LeBron's the best player in the world, Kevin Durant's the second, and Steph Curry's the third. After that, we can have our Kawhis, our James Hardens, and all those other point guards that are really good. But I think most NBA fans, myself included, with Justin, would agree KD was the next best player after LeBron James. And he was, in my eyes, we think back at this era, it may sound crazy to say because Steph has had a lot more success, but I think of Kevin Durant as the face after LeBron before I think of Steph Curry. And it's not, and the reason why I say that is not from a perspective of popularity, because Steph is the way more popular player, but who was the better player at their peak? I think it was KD for his two-way versatility. Now, we're close there. I just feel like the Thunder failed to build around KD. And with the Nets, a lot of things went poorly that he could not control. So yeah, Steph, way more popular player. I have Steph higher all time. He has a greater legacy than Kevin Durant because he was the face of a franchise that won 4 championships. But when I think back at the best player from this era, Bron, KD, Steph.
Yeah, all those are fair points. To the OKC not building around him, to a degree, I agree with you. Obviously, not willing to pay the luxury tax to keep James Harden was an obvious failure. But you got to remember, we all remember they drafted all those guys: KD, Russell Westbrook, James Harden. Did they draft Ibaka?
Yeah, I think they may have acquired him.
Reggie Jackson. And all these other guys that I'm probably forgetting right now. Steven Adams, I'm pretty sure, right? Enes Kanter. They drafted all these guys and they built. Now, yes, the James Harden was just not a smart move. You got to pay the money if you want to have that big three. I'm just saying in terms of and the best player. I know that I'm kind of on an island alone where I think Steph Curry was, but we got to remember where we were at that time. Steph had just come off winning a championship, right? Didn't get the finals MVP, which I think everybody can understand that he rightfully deserved that MVP. And then throughout that season, the 73-9 season, there were legitimate talks, and you can Google this, YouTube it, on mainstream sports, TV show, radio, whatever you want to talk about. Is Steph Curry surpassing LeBron as the best player in the world? Is he surpassing LeBron as the face of the NBA? Those conversations were being had. KD was not in that conversation. I agree, John. When you say face, that's why I was like instantly react, but you prefaced it. So that's where I think maybe face isn't the right word. that KD was second after LeBron, because it's got to be Steph, because to me, and I texted you guys this after we had that superstar debate. There's only two megastars in the NBA. It's LeBron and Steph Curry. That's it. They've transcended the brand. So for me, I think Steph drove that train of that Golden State Warriors team to me, and KD joined in. And I just think, and I've heard, Draymond talk about it. Tyronn Lue even agreed, not agreed, but co-signed Draymond's thoughts, where he said Steph was the one getting double teamed more in the finals. And then Ty Lue said, yeah, that's true. We were double teaming Steph a lot more than KD. I just feel like, for me, I take Steph Curry, and I agree. Listen, I'm one guy who usually takes defense in the highest consideration. It's just when I look at Steph Curry, guy's the greatest shooter to ever live, greatest three-point shooter to ever live. Might go down as the greatest, just literal all-around shooter ever to live. He revolutionized the game. It's hard for me to put KD over him when KD went to his unit. So that's where I disagree, and I understand I might be on an island alone, but I feel like I've been proven right too. When Steph Curry won the finals, last year without KD, he did it again. So
100%. But here's the thing: Steph Curry, greater brands, more popular player, and he's clearly got the greater legacy. Steph Curry had Draymond Green, one of the greatest defenders of our generation. Steve Kerr, one of the greatest coaches of our generation, that maximized Draymond and really made him the player he was by putting him at the center spot to close games. Klay Thompson, who we've had debates on the show. Brand, you thought Klay Thompson at some points was a top 15 player, and he wasn't far off from that, even though I disagreed. And then you had Andre Iguodala, one of the best six-man in the game. Kevin Durant did not have that coach in Scott Brooks. He didn't have that defensive player of the year or that shooter in Klay Thompson. He had a player in Russell Westbrook who struggled to coexist with stars in that point of his career. And so I think that is the thing here. While Steph has 4 championships, 2 more, or technically 2 more without KD. KD's only got 2. So much about championships in sports is about the best teams with the best stars. Kevin Durant was one of the best stars, but he never had the support. And a lot of things, like I said before, whether it was poor trades, questionable roster decisions, or just guys getting injured, like in 2021, the Nets are winning the championship that year. If they stayed healthy, they were going to win a title. Unfortunately, they got injured. The same way the Warriors last year got healthy at the perfect time, and if they were not healthy, they were not going to the finals. They were fortunate enough to get Draymond back, Steph back, Poole playing relatively well in some series, and Andrew Wiggins playing the basketball of his life. So much about championships, which we overlook, is the simple reality. You need to be healthy because the championship is the survival of the fittest. And so that's where I start to reject that point.
I agree with you on all your points except for one. Listen, do I agree that was it harder for KD to win with Russell Westbrook and the coaches he had? Yes, 100%. The style of basketball that OKC Thunder team played was more solo basketball, hero ball. I understand that. And KD had a lot to do with that too, because he is kind of, I know he can mesh into any team, but he is at the end of the day a solo guy. Like, he can just go get his own bucket if he really wants to and take over a game. What I push back on is we can't forget that team that he had, where you say he didn't have the support system, they made it to a finals as babies. They won a game against the Miami Heat, that big 3, in the finals. That team had, different team, but Westbrook and KD had a 3-1 lead in the Western Conference Finals over the defending champions Golden State Warriors. They had a 3-1 lead. So that same talent that you say cost them brought them to those points. And where I'll say this is, I'll finish it off. When you're a great player, we expect you to do things others cannot. And that's my whole point. He didn't get it done. So when you say that he didn't have the support system, finals, conference finals, 3-1 lead, seems like he had just enough support system to get to those points. You just needed one game in the 3-1 lead to get to the finals. So that's my whole pushback. And then he went to the Warriors, and the whole discussion and narrative around Kevin Durant changed. And it's not a coincidence. It's not. And I don't hold – I'll let you go, Justin. I don't hold that against Steph, that – because you got to remember this, John, at the points. Before they won the championship, who was Draymond Green? A second-round nobody. Who was Klay Thompson? Who was Steph Curry? A guy who was injury prone that people had questions. Could he have a long career? And he's 35 now, playing insane that we just talked about. Yeah. So you got to remember at these times, and remember Steve Kerr too. Mark Jackson was fired. And people were like, what are you doing? There were questions. So you got to remember at those points. Now we look at them and we understand what they are. But at the points, they were different. So that's my whole pushback with that. Go ahead, Justin. I know you want to say.
I think the truth is too, when it comes to Golden State and him going out there and not sticking with OKC, I really do believe, regardless of what John said about, building around Kevin Durant, I think that was still Golden State's direct competition in the Western Conference. If Kevin Durant stays in the West, I'd say with confidence that
it's them and the
road to
Spurs.
get,
It's them and the Spurs. It's OKC, Golden State, and the Spurs back then.
I believe that OKC still finds their way to get to another NBA Finals. I mean, they were a game away from doing that against Golden State. Who's to say they couldn't have done it again with a full off season of retooling, or a couple seasons of retooling? I don't know, man. So that's why I guess I understand why Kevin Durant gets the slander he does going to Golden State, because you still could have built something in OKC. I don't think just because you lost 3-1, you hit rock bottom there. You were still in a better situation than how many more teams in the Western Conference? The next year, you probably were the odds-on favorite to get to that same place the next season and the next season because you had who you had on your team. I just think it's still, I stick with Stephen A. Smith when he says the weakest NBA move in NBA history. It easily was. You can't beat him, join him. If he would have went to, like you said, Washington, back then I was rooting for him to go to Boston. If he went to any other franchise outside of Golden State, it would have been, okay, he just wanted a fresh start. That's fine. But going to a team that knocked you out is forever going to be weak. But regardless, I still believe, I believe he was the best player on the floor when he was on Golden State. He was the best player in those NBA finals. And he's still a top 5 basketball player in the world when he's healthy. So, but it is a shame because we can argue about what ifs and shoulda, woulda, couldas, because if he would have stayed in OKC, I really do believe that they find their way at least to another NBA finals.